I curse you this day, Dante Russo, the witch said as she dug her hand into Dante's chest with blood spilling from the corner of her lips. Dante stared, knowing he could not escape a witch's curse. He had to kill her before she completed her statement. His hand dug deeper into her chest, reaching for her heart. 3 decades you will live, and you must find the one you love. A grim joining because in her life is your death, and in your life is your death. But 3 decades is the most for a being of your nature who loves death, Dante Russo, the witch said, spitting her blood onto his forehead. 3 decades, the most you would live if you never find the one who will love you the most. Bestie, if you're a lover of werewolf romance stories, kindly be supportive by clicking on the subscribe button. Now, let's get started. What did the healers find? Dante asked as he stared at the mirror. His eyes reflected a dull gray back to him even as the sun let out rays of bright colors. I'm sorry, Alpha? His beta, Alfonso said, lowering his head in a mix of regret and shame. The healers say there is nothing they can do for you, Dante screamed, throwing the books from the bookshelf to the ground and watching as they laid in a crumbling heap beneath his feet. I should have killed her before she laid that curse. We will continue our search for a cure for it, Alfonso answered, shaking his head as he turned away. Dante turned away from the mirror, leaning with his hands on the table. He was 29, which meant he had less than 12 months to leave. He leaned back, dropping into a chair behind him. The witch's face cackled in his imagination. Damn you, Dante cursed, with a fist slamming into the armchair and breaking the wooden armrest. Days had passed with everyone doing their best to search for a cure to Dante's curse. You look happy today, Alpha, Alfonso said as he noticed Dante had stepped out of his room with a smile. Dante turned to him with a smile, patting his shoulders. You know I've been living my life like a race ever since that witch cursed me. Alfonso nodded his head. So it seems, and we are running out of much-needed time, sir. Dante pulled Alfonso to his side. Why worry about tomorrow? We've run around all the clues we've found, tortured even more witches and wizards, pleaded with them even, and there seems to be nothing. What do you mean, sir? Alfonso asked, staring at Dante from the corner of his eye. Dante pulled away from Alfonso with his arms spread out. I mean, I can live life just as I please. I know when I'm about to die. Let me do the things I still have time to do. Not that I would stop searching for a reversal, but I'd live life for even just a little. What would be your first stop, sire? Alfonso asked, heaving a deep breath as he noticed Dante wasn't going to shake from his resolution. Dante let out a satisfied moan. I'd like to see my pack, know what's been happening since I locked myself in my castle. I'll get the driver, and we'll step out. No, Dante said with a smile. Just me and you, the one who's been with me through thick and thin. Alfonso nodded. He could not deviate Dante's thoughts. I'll get the keys, sire. Dante waved him off, standing under the warmth of the sun. Alfonso returned with a car key, and they slipped into one of his cars. That would be inappropriate, sire, Alfonso said as Dante sat on the seat next to the driver's seat. Dante stared at him, ignoring his statement. I'd like to see everything. The very reason I said it was for sightseeing. Alfonso sighed. The Alpha wasn't acting like an alpha anymore. More like a child. He shook his head as he ignited the engine, gunning the car through the paved road and out of the castle. They drove around for the better part of the morning, stopping in front of a cafe. Dante stepped out of the car, wrapping his suit around his body, with Alfonso walking behind him. They stepped into an almost empty cafe, sitting at a table. Is this what normal looks like to most people? Dante asked, staring out across the street to the people walking through it. Life is a mixture of easy and hard. Most people have the hard side more than the easy. Some never had it easy. Dante chuckled, turning to face Alfonso. And I've had it easy for most of my life except for the fighting and politics. How can I help you, sir? The lady said. Her blonde hair floated through the morning light like a ray of golden light cascading at the edge of a waterfall. Her appearance had taken every word out of his tongue. Sir, Beta Alfonso called out as Dante's gaze remained on the lady in front of him. Dante coughed, shifting himself in his seat. A cup of cappuccino would do nicely. The lady smiled at him with perfect dentition. For the both of you? What would you have, Alfonso? Dante asked, clearing his throat. Anything you would have, sir, Alfonso answered. Dante nodded, moving his head rather amusingly, like he had lost rotary ability. The lady smiled, walking away after she had written their order on a paper, and stepped away towards the counter. Who is she? Dante asked, leaning over the table to whisper to Alfonso. I'm afraid you would have to ask her for her name, sire, Alfonso answered, tilting his head to stare as the lady disappeared behind the counter. Dante hummed, holding his jaw with his hand underneath it. Maybe I will. Carrie, her fellow bartender called out, staring at Dante from behind the counter. What is it, Amelia? Carrie asked as she walked inside, holding out the order to the lady in front of her. Amelia chuckled, spying on both men at the table. It seems that man has his eye on you. What if I have my eyes on him as well? Carrie said, joking as she glanced at the table. You've never had a thing running with most men who come around here, Amelia said as she processed the order Carrie had given to her. That's because none of them have caught my fancy. Oi. Is that it? Amelia asked, chuckling as she added some milk into the cups. Carrie chuckled, turning to the man with white hair and gray eyes. She didn't know if he was what she wanted or not, but she felt her heart race when he stared into her eyes. But it was what normally happened when she was standing close to someone she fancied. Since you don't fancy him, you wouldn't mind me serving his order? Amelia asked with a mischievous grin as she slipped past Carrie. Our shift is over already. Let me handle this one before they turn in for their shift. Is it? Carrie asked, staring at the time. It was 2:00 at the strike. Yeah, you are right, she added, slipping her apron off her head. She slipped through the back door, hanging her apron on the door and arranging her things into her bag. Carrie stepped out of the cafe with a deep breath. Her shift was over, and she would return home to rest for the day. A sigh escaped her lips just as Carrie appeared. The bloke doesn't look that bad. A shame you don't fancy him, Carrie said as she slipped off her apron and placed it in the same place as Carrie. There are plenty of blokes in the sea. Sure, you will find the one made for you. Now, we have to leave. I'm tired. Same here, Carrie said as they walked out through the back door of the cafe and headed out into the street, stopping at a crossroads. See you tomorrow? Amelia waved at her as they separated. Carrie waved back, slipping into an alley. She was tired and needed to cut corners to get to her place quickly. She hadn't walked further when footsteps approached her from behind, accompanied by whistling. What do we have here, Philly? One said, running in front of her. Carrie gripped her bag, staring as both men placed her between them. I don't want any trouble, and I'd like to go home. We wouldn't like any trouble as well, the one called Philly said as he grabbed her arm from behind, twisting her to face him. Carrie whimpered as she stared at Philly's face. You can have the money. Just let me go, please. Philly let out a snicker. That's too easy, Melody. I want more than that, he said as he pinned her to the wall, licking her neck. Carrie squeaked as she struggled against his hold. It was obvious what they wanted as Philly tugged at her coat. Please don't do this to me. Stop squeaking, you sniveling bitch, Philly cursed, laughing as he threw her to the ground and moved atop her. You are gonna love it. Carrie cried as he pinned both her hands to the top of her head while he tugged at his trousers for his buckle. Please don't do it. A slap cut across her face, through blood from her lips and maniacal laughter from Philly and his cohort. Everywhere seemed to darken for a moment as Philly tugged at her gown. She could feel the chill air caress her skin with every inch the bastard raised. You heard the lady. You wouldn't force her to do something she wouldn't want to do. A masculine voice echoed from the side. Fuck off, buzzard, or you would get a beating, Philly sneered, pushing Carrie's dress to reveal her undies. The figure moved, throwing a kick at Philly's head. What the fuck was that all about? Philly asked, holding his head as he rolled away from Carrie's body. You want all of this heat? He had picked a bar off the wall. Carrie pushed herself to a sitting position when she felt something strike the back of her head. She blacked out, dropping back to the ground with the echoes of fighting around her. Are you all right? A faceless figure asked as she blinked her eyes through the blurriness and the pain gravitated from the back of her head. Carrie stared at the face, It held the semblance of the man who had come to the cafe earlier on. What was he doing here? She didn't know the answer to the question as she blacked out. "Sire," Alfonso called out, staring at Dante, who was pacing around in his room. "I should have taken her to the hospital, right?" Dante asked, running his nails through his teeth. "She is stirring." Dante stopped, turning to Alfonso. "She is? You should have told me sooner," he bellowed as he stormed out of the room, heading to the room he had kept her. He stepped into the room, watching as she wrapped the sheets around her. "Where am I?" she asked, staring around the room. "Safe and alive," Dante answered, putting out his hands to show that he wasn't a threat. "And who are you? Are you part of those men who want to do terrible things to me?" she asked with a hint of terror in her voice. "Bestie, if you've already come this far, it means you're enjoying the story. Kindly show a little support by subscribing to my channel. My name is Dante, and no, I'm not part of those men who have no regard for themselves," Dante said, standing at an arm's length from her. She gasped, putting her head between her knees. "What did you do to them?" "Enough to never let them think of taking advantage of a woman the next time they see one," Dante said, relaxing as he had noticed she had relaxed as well. "And you saved me," Carrie completed his words. "Thank you." Her voice seemed sincere as she slipped out of bed. "I think I will take my leave now." "I'm afraid you can't," Dante answered her, turning around to the door. Carrie moved forward, pulling his arms. "Why would you say that? I have work to do, and it is obvious you are from a wealthy family and don't have to work hard to live." Dante froze as he stared at her. If only she knew he didn't have much to live. Would she cuddle up to him? He shook his head to clear the thoughts. "Would you prefer you get killed by those men, or would a few days off work let you live a little longer?" Carrie pulled her hand away from him. "Why would they want to kill me? They aren't normal humans." "Werewolves?" Dante shrugged his shoulders. "And they have your scent on them. They will look for you until they finish what they've begun, or you end it. Didn't you know how it seems when werewolves have a scent on them? They would chase that high for months. I can't ask you to kill another being." "Then give them a few months to get your scent off them," Dante advised. "I don't think I have a few months before they lay me off work," Carrie objected. Dante held out his hands in front of her. "You don't have to worry about that. I'll take care of what you need, and my butler will send a letter of leave to your employers." "That would do, right?" Carrie let out an exasperated sigh. "And what do I have to do to repay this favor?" "Nothing," Dante answered, turning away from her. "I only need your recuperation, and then you can leave." Carrie dropped onto the bed, moaning with her head between her palms. "I'm sorry I'll have to inconvenience you." Dante chuckled, standing with his hand on the doorknob. "You aren't? I'm just doing what I think is best for both of us," he said as he closed the door. "How did it go, Alpha?" Alfonso asked as he saw Dante. Dante hurried, placing a finger on his lips. "Don't let her know I am the Alpha." Alfonso tilted his head to stare at the door behind him. "The rooms here are soundproof. More reason no one has to imply I am Alpha of the pack. Let everyone keep my title out of their mouths." "What would you prefer they address you as, sire?" Dante let out a deep breath with his head lowered to his chest. "You are right, Alfonso, but sir would do." Alfonso nodded. "I'll let the house know." He stopped, staring at Dante over his shoulders. "How long is our guest going to stay?" "As long as she needs to," Dante answered, pushing himself away from the door. "We'll need to find those werewolves who had thought to do her harm." Carrie paced in her room. Dante had brought the same report every time she had asked if it was time for her to leave, but she would make sure she would get a better excuse than it wasn't safe outside as she stormed out of her room, heading towards Dante's room. "Mr. Dante," Carrie called out, bursting into Dante's room. Dante spurned, stunned at her entrance. "What are you doing here?" "Letting you know I was leaving," Carrie said, a firm look in her gaze. Dante walked closer to her, holding her hand. "And you would leave me alone? 6 months and you feel nothing for me?" Carrie gulped. She hadn't wanted to stay, but her prolonged stay had only brought her closer to the man in front of her. Her heart raced at the thought of a feeling that had grown inside of her. "I didn't want to say it, but I think We lost track of the men, Alpha," Alfonso said as he stepped into the room, meeting Carrie and Dante at that moment. Alpha? As in werewolves? Carrie asked, stepping away from Dante. Dante slapped his palm against his face. The reason I never wanted people to know who I was for a very long time. I never knew you were a werewolf, Carrie answered. Even more. The Alpha. I didn't want to tell you I was the Alpha. I wanted to know how you truly feel about me, Dante said, letting the truth spill. And what if I never felt something for you? You don't even know who I am, Carrie protested. Dante pushed closer to her. But I know you have something for me, and you only have to accept it. Yes, I feel something for you, Carrie answered, holding her hand to herself. Then become mine. Become my Luna and rule by my side, Dante said, reaching for her. But I am a human, Carrie said as she noticed what had happened, feeling the bond pair with a glitch in her soul. Dante slammed back against the wall, holding his hands against his head. The witch's words came to him once more. A grim joining. In her life is your death, and in your life is her death. Carrie reached out to him, stopping her hand as Dante let out a maniacal laugh. Are you all right? How can I be? My mate is a human. How did I not smell you? How did I not know you were a human? The question flew from his lips into the air. Is this part of the joke? Part of the curse to keep me unaware? Let me have my redemption in front of me and watch me lose it. Carrie turned to Alfonso. What does he mean? She asked with confusion permeating her look. A witch had cursed the Alpha. A circle of revenge, but the Alpha had the last laugh. Not until she laid a curse on him, Alfonso answered, staring at Dante as he crumpled on the floor. Cursed never to see past his 30th birthday except he found his mate. But the curse continued, bringing me and him together. Carrie added, understanding what was happening. Her heart raced even faster than it had when she confessed she had feelings for him. His 30th birthday is in a month's time. Dante looked at her, wiping his face of imaginary death. I'll use it to get to werewolves and make sure they never have the chance to hurt you. Carrie stopped to meet him, running her hand through his hair. How about we find a way to keep you alive? You would protect me from future threats and not a one-time thing. There's no hope. We've done everything, but nobody seems to have a clue, Dante said, turning away. He didn't want to look into her face after he realized he was going to lose her just a month after he knew they were mates. No, Carrie countered, pulling him to his feet. You didn't have me when you went searching for a reversal. Alfonso let out a deep sigh. What do you think we can do now? Find a seer, Carrie answered. He only saw my death in every instance and supposed cure I had taken. You did not have a mate then, Carrie replied, wiping the teardrop that had rolled down one side of her face. Alfonso stared at Dante, waiting for his reply. Whatever she says, Dante said, turning away. He had lost all hope, but he would listen to her. Maybe there was a chance that things would go as he planned. Alfonso nodded, walking towards the door. I'll get the car ready. Carrie turned to Dante, putting her hand on his cheeks. It might have taken a while, but I would let you out of my sight, not now that I know the truth. The drive to the seer's place was doused in quietness, except for the sound of the tires rolling across the tarmac. They pulled into a gated house, stopping in front of the building. Alpha Dante and his mate, the seer said as the couple stepped into the house. Dante nodded. It seems you were expecting us. The future is like a tree. Every action births a new path that one must follow to become a branch, a leaf, or a flower. Some grow even further to become fruits and seeds in turn to create a new plant, the seer said, smiling as he stared at Dante and Carrie. Carrie clung onto Dante's hand as she stared at the face looking straight at her. White eyes that seemed like they had seen too much of the future. What did you see? Dante asked, hopeful from the seer's words. Nothing. Just paths and branches you would have to take. You die or she dies. Dante let out a deep breath. It was useless coming here, he said, turning with Carrie on his trail. Or you will make her a werewolf, the seer said, staring at Dante. Or you could become human. That is not possible, Dante said, turning to stare at the seer. The seer smiled with a mischievous grin glued to his face. You have no idea what can be possible and what isn't, Alpha. I will become a werewolf, Carrie said without batting an eyelid. You do not mean to believe this is possible? Dante's hands grabbed Carrie's shoulders, turning her to face him. I've never heard of a potion able to change a werewolf to a human or a human to a werewolf. Even if there were one, there would be a repercussion that follows it. He continued as the seer walked to the center of the room. The seer let out a maniacal laugh as a blazing fire with a green color roared to life. The cauldron boiled like it had waited for this time. You are right, Alpha Dante, it has one repercussion. Dante turned to the seer with an I knew it look. What is it? The seer flashed his teeth at him. The same as always. Death. Are you willing to take that risk? He asked, staring at Carrie. Dante pulled Carrie behind him. We will think about it. A month would suffice for it to do what it has to do, just enough time for the both of you to decide which one you would become, the seer said, scooping out a dark liquid from the cauldron and pouring it into a vial. Dante snatched the vial from him. It wasn't as hot as he had expected it to be, as it had come from a boiling pot. We will think about it. The seer smiled, waving at Dante even before they left. In a month's time, I'll be a part of those looking for a new alpha for the pack, or welcoming our Luna. Carrie paced in front of Dante's room. He had called a few council members to let them know what his next plan was. She watched as he left the room, sneaking inside. She knew where he would keep it, as she slid to the hidden compartment at the head of the bed, pulling out the dark vial from its belly. There you are, Carrie muttered as she snuck out of the room, holding the potion in her hand. Carrie! Dante screamed at the top of his voice. Carrie stared at the potion, waiting for the clouds to disperse and the full moon to show its glory. It seemed he had forgotten the vial in a hurry to address the council, but it was the only time she had to take that risk. If she died, she knew she had done all she could to be with him. Don't, Dante screamed, but he was too late as Carrie emptied the bottle into her stomach. Carrie smiled at him as she swallowed the last drop. I love you, she mouthed as a piercing scream escaped her throat. Dante watched as every bone in her body seemed to snap out and back in place. Her eyes pleaded and her voice cried for help, but Dante could only watch. Furs popped out and faded into her body, lasting for a few minutes before utter silence. Carrie turned to him with a lifeless look in her eyes. Dante rushed forward as he noticed her body on the brink of falling. Carrie howled at the moon, dropping into Dante's arms after she had exhausted herself. Did it work? She asked, nuzzling Dante's body. Dante chuckled, rubbing his hand through her hair. A bell tolled in the distance. It seemed it did, my love. I'm not dead. Carrie laughed, wrapping her hands around him. And I am a werewolf. Alfonso stepped out, staring at the couple as they lay tangled together. What is the next step, Alpha? Dante raised a head with a smile on his face. Let the pack know we have a Luna, he said as he placed a kiss on her forehead. Besties, hope this story made your day as much as your subscription would brighten mine. Here's hoping you'd also tune into my next story. Lots of love.